Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Towns. We are starting in the newly finished science town of Flaskmere. We're checking up on how it's running. We've accidentally left no limit on the supply of circuits, so we've ended up with far too many. We'll have to find someone to put those, but for now I'm just going to put them into my trash slots, seeing as at the moment their purpose is just to dump stuff that I don't want cluttering up my main inventory. So it looks like the iron situation is not great in the town at the moment. I left it for a while to see if it would even out, but it's still not good, so I'm going to add in some extra mining tools. We've gone from 3 to 7 drills and 4 to 6 furnaces. All 6 of those furnaces should be running non-stop because there's more than enough ore for them, and we can have a look at how that runs. There is now some getting past the gear production. Also checking up on the map because we want to start looking at the locations, or the potential locations for our future towns. We still need steel, stone, copper, blue science, and a bunch more complicated stuff that will be coming in the more distant future. Our main issue right now is we want to get blue science running because we are rapidly running out of any other research to do, and we really need advanced oil processing and a couple of things like that so that we can get some more permanent oil production things going on. We don't have to worry about having to just store a bunch of heavy and light oil or whatever, or turn them into solid fuel. So, having inspected the iron situation a little bit longer, I've decided to upgrade it a bit more. So we're now up to 11 miners, and we'll have it go up to 8 furnaces. There's miles more iron than is needed for the furnaces, but I guess that means that when some of them run out, the system will still run well. And hopefully this should be enough to fix it. There's already some iron getting past the gear production, which is important, but it sort of ended up oscillating, as you sometimes get with some production systems, where once the iron got to the inserter production, a bunch more gears got used up, meaning that a bunch more iron got used up, so it just ended up with waves of iron coming in and then not coming in. But with the extra iron being added in, the gear production is now running constantly, but there is still a ton of iron getting through. And interestingly enough, it's leading to the gear production running down, showing that it really wasn't anywhere near full speed before. The worry is that might stay run down, so that the limiting factor is the gear production, but I'm also noticing that very rapidly the supply of inserters is filling up. So once it's filled up, the gears should back up again. So I have a watch of that for a while, check up on everything else. Green science is slowly filling up. I also remembered to put the 2 belts on the end of the science column. Someone pointed out to me in the comments of the last video that I'd forgotten about that, because of course I was using sort of the old design that I had in my head from back when belts didn't need to go right in front of an inserter. They just needed to have the items go off the end of the belt in front of it. Interesting enough, some people at this point may not know about that, now that it's been around since the beginning of, I think, is it 0.13? I think it's that, or not 0.13, that's not out yet, 0.12, I think it's been around since the beginning of that, or one of the very early updates of it. Anyway, I'm now happy with the situation. The iron and the gears seem to be building up, so we're going to leave it there and make our way back to, well, I always go to say the main base, but it's just the rest of the towns. So we'll start in Chipton. We've got far too much in the way of circuits, so I try offloading some into the circuit assemblers. And also, while I'm here, we should probably add some more defences in. We're very thin on the ground in terms of turrets here. But there have been quite a few boundary attacks recently from that base just to the northwest of Flaskmere, so we'll add a bunch more turrets in there, and that should be a big help in the defence. Shouldn't need to worry about that for a good long while. The attacks aren't that powerful, but if they carry on and we never pay any attention to them, they will slowly sort of wear things down. But anyway, over to Colbury, where we're resupplying on stone, and then we'll quickly go over to the concrete production that we have, and get a bunch of concrete too. This is going to be moved, it's going to go to the stone town, but for now it's just sort of its own little thing, because it's not even in the main base. It's sort of, the main base bridges the gap between Frackham and what's it called, Colbury, and but then the what do you call it? The concrete production sort of bridges the gap between Colbury and the main base too. And it's sort of because it uses uses the iron ore, but it also uses the stone brick and things like that. But eventually, stone brick will be somewhere else entirely. It's just sort of been sat there in Colbury with no particular reason of being there, other than the fact that it was there before. Anyway, more attacks going on, and I'm also over in Frackham because we want to start looking at blue science, because just as I finished fixing the situation over in Flaskmere and I got the iron and stuff building up, we ran out of research, and now the only research left to do involves blue science packs, so we really urgently want to get that running so that we can get some proper technology. We need some more powerful weaponry to deal with the biters, and some more technology so that we can better work on our towns. One particular thing I would like to do, though I think I can do this right now, is to get some logistics running. Well, one of the things I want is a personal roboports, and I don't know if I can do that or not, actually. I sort of lose track of all the stuff. I just want to get all the science running, and then once we have that, we know we have access to all the technologies sooner or later. So I've decided that I'm going to be making batteries in Frackham. I wasn't sure initially because batteries is something that could be made on site, because you just need to ship in sulfur, but you also need to ship in copper and iron. And I don't much like the idea of that because while iron is going to be shipped to pretty much every town, just because it's used in pretty much everything, I don't really want to be shipping copper to every town that uses batteries, because copper is actually used in very few things, raw copper. A lot of the stuff that uses copper uses it in the form of circuits or advanced circuits or batteries, so the fact that we have all three of those already being made, or we will do, means that we shouldn't need to take copper anywhere else. The good thing about that being that I can basically set up like a copper train that delivers to everywhere. At the moment, though, everything has its own copper supply pretty much, and the only place that doesn't, that now needs it, is Frackham. So what we're going to do, instead of getting a copper town, because that will take some time and we want to get on with the blue science town, is I'm just going to siphon some off from Redport. I think there's far too much copper in Redport and it's never going to use it up, so it shouldn't be a problem to load some of it into a train that is passing through anyway and have it offloaded over in Frackham. The iron, on the other hand, we will bring in from Ironwood because we do have that town in place. In fact, I was sort of preemptive with it because once I built it, I realised I didn't actually need it urgently, because the way that I'm setting up the towns is that they initially have the raw materials handy, and it's only later on that they start needing to rely on newer towns that have the resource handy themselves. But the time has now come where a town that doesn't have iron needs iron, though it is because it's retroactively started needing it. So we're setting up the train, and we'll have it. I mean, its only purpose at the moment will be to deliver iron to Frackham, and it's just going to hop back and forth between the two stations. Such trains are probably going to become very rare in the future, particularly in terms of like iron and stuff, because I'm going to integrate it better. At some point I'll have to start writing down timetables. In fact, I may even do that like with this episode, because with this we have 4 trains running, and 2 of them are not very well designed because they each have a single job, which is not sort of the way you want to do it. You want to have, you only want a train to have a single job if that job needs like the throughput that only having a dedicated train could provide, and that sort of thing. And you could always have like 2 trains that have like the same job and then other jobs beside that. But anyway, we're setting up now the unloading of the iron into Frackham. We already have copper on the train that goes to Redport, so we just need to combine those along with the sulfur and some water, and we'll have ourselves some batteries. We'll still have sulfur as a separate resource, so that could be loaded onto trains, because there are places that use sulfur. I think there's only one thing, and it's explosives, if I remember rightly, but that is still something we may well be producing. I intend at some point in future to start having 1 or more military-based towns where their entire purpose is to ship in various resources and make weapons. We might have like a dedicated power suit town, and then like an ammo town or something like that. I'm really not decided on that yet. That is all sort of future stuff once we have sort of all the full technologies in terms of military stuff. That sentence didn't work very well, but you got what I meant probably. So we're setting up now the chemical plants required to make the batteries. One of the reasons that I decided to make the batteries here was because they use chemical plants, and I feel like that means that Frackham is more concerned with them, because its job is all things oil, essentially. So if a chemical plant is involved, you probably want it to be done in Frackham. Of course, in future we'll have a lot more batteries being made. We'll have more than one assembler for it. More than one chemical plant for it. So I think at that point I will continue to have it in Frackham. I'm not fully decided, and some people may think it's a bad idea. I've already been told off about saying that I'm going to get rid of the walls in Flaskmere, and rightly so, because the idea is that I'm supposed to be like, if it was the natural development of a town, you wouldn't have like all record of its previous industries being demolished. You'd have it being repurposed. So I probably won't bring in the walls of Flaskmere, or if I do, I'll bring them in but leave the old ones in place or something like that. One thing that I'm thinking of toying with is once I've got the logistics system, trying putting a deconstruction order on an old like section of a town and then taking it off after like 5 seconds. The idea of that being that a bunch of random items will be taken out and it'll look sort of old and abandoned and falling apart, and that sort of thing. But I'm not sure how well that will work. The bots can often like sometimes they'll take things out in a seemingly random pattern, but other times they can like just take out the closest thing to you or take out all of one type of item first. At least that's how it seems. It's hard to say. I don't really understand fully like how the bots work. I know that they don't cooperate very much, and so they can often get themselves into pickles because they'll all try and do one job where another job needs doing first, and none of them does it, if you know what I mean. If you've been watching Rail World and also Living with Biters, or perhaps will watch, I can't remember whether the episode will be out by now, but you'll see examples of that where the bots try and like build stuff where there are trees in the way, and then they can't do anything. But no, actually, no, it was only in Rail World. Nothing happened in Living with Biters. Yeah, it was in the most recent Rail World episode. Trying to get the bots to build stuff in a forest is always annoying. We might have issues. Well, it's a demonstration of the fact that they don't cooperate, and so I don't. Hopefully, they'll have a sort of random pattern with it. But anyway, we're making our way down to the tracks south of Frackham. You may have seen me doing a bit of sort of train racing there, trying to like seeing how far I could get before I had to dodge out of the way. It was like chicken, but I was being chased by the train. But we're going to extend this line down here because this is where I've decided, this is the direction in which I've decided we will build our next town. So the reason being, we are approaching a iron deposit, and I specifically lined things up so that I would go straight past this iron deposit. So there we go. The planning ahead has worked out well, and that's what whenever I'm building a new branch of the rail system, I'm always sort of considering the future routes it's going to take. In a way, that's sort of cheating because the natural progression. Well, the natural development of Britain's railways probably didn't involve that much forward planning. It was like, these are the towns that exist right now, we're going to build rails to them, and we have no idea what's going to happen in future. Then new towns spring up, and I don't know. I imagine there was some planning to it, because people will consider the future when they're investing like the equivalent of millions of pounds into the railways at the time. I perhaps should do more research into all this stuff when for this series to try and sort of get a more realistic thing. But at the end of the day, we're playing a game where that puts fairly significant limits on how you can arrange the rails. Like, if you want to have rails work together well, you have to have them like 4 squares. Where you have to have a 4 square gap between them in order to like be able to hop between them right and stuff like that. And also, there are no sort of like slight side steps of like one track and things like that. I would like that sort of thing to be in place so that I could have more imaginative and realistic designs, but it's not sort of a good idea really. It sort of messes with the game. That's the thing you always have to consider. You have like the balance between realism and gameplay value and things like that. Anyway, we're currently working on this particular junction right here. I was going to make it into a 4-way junction, but I changed my mind. And I'm not even making it into a T junction now. I'm actually making it into, I guess, a Y junction. And the reason is that this is going to connect up to the tracks that I'm bringing down from Frackham. And it's going to lead to there being alternative routes between Frackham and the stations north of there and Flaskmere, because the train can either go via Colbury or, I guess, Southbridge. Or it could go the other way via the town that I'm going to be building there, which is, by the way, a blue signs town. I think we'll ask for the names. I'm not sure whether I should ask for names this episode or next episode. I will decide within the next 6 minutes. But yes, I've decided that I'm not even going to make it a T-junction because if any train wants to get from one branch to the other branch, it can go via the north route because Frackham does have a proper T-junction, so there's no reason to have an extra T-junction there, and it would quite possibly lead only to issues with trains going in the wrong direction, because you always have to pay attention to that, because of the way I'm arranging things. The way round that trains are matters, and if there are multiple routes that involve, where one of them involves the train turning around, then all hell could break loose with the train being backwards and then not switching back again, or things being loaded into the wrong areas or unloaded from the wrong areas, and things could shut down very rapidly. And if it happens to a coal train, it could destroy the entire factory. Well, not factory, the entire county? I'm not really sure. I've wondered if I should have like counties and stuff here. Or not, and like have different towns be different sections. We'll work that out later on. But yes, that, like, having a loop in a system like this could lead to disaster. So we're going to avoid them wherever possible, possibly avoid them entirely. I think that's doable. But anyway, we're resupplying on a bunch of stuff in the main base, including engines, because we used up a bunch making the train that goes between Ironwood and Frackham. And we want to have another one handy to sort out the designs of the rails. The new rails going from Frackham to Flaskmere. I'm trying to remember all the names here. It's still taking a while to sort of get them in. Well, some of them I'm remembering better than others. I'm not remembering Colbury very well because I haven't even seen the train there for ages. Look, I only see the Bury bit of the sign, and then I'm off again. But anyway, we turned up in Colbury and found that we are out of stone, which is a bit worrying. So, well, I was going to say I go and investigate, but I know exactly what's happened. The miners have run out, and the only thing to do now is clear them away and worry, because we need more stone. I mean, it's not urgent, particularly considering how much of it we are using for essentially recreational purposes and making things look nice, but it's not good when you don't have a stone supply. There are things that use stone, such as walls, and walls are important. We need them to defend against the biters, and any new town that we build requires them, so we want to get access to a new stone deposit as soon as possible, but there are none that are particularly nearby. I start having a look around the map, and I'm looking for that. Like, all I want is this one big stone deposit. It doesn't even need to be big by the standards of any other kind of deposit. It just needs to be big in terms of a stone deposit, and then we can build a town on it. I just want to build a stone town somewhere, and the landscape is refusing to let me. I can't remember what settings I used when I was setting up the map for stone, so perhaps I didn't have much foresight, and I made it like all the normal settings rather than having any larger deposits of it. But it's definitely seeming like that at the moment. There's just not enough stone, and any stone that there is in tiny little deposits that you could put 2 miners on and have mined in like 2 hours. So it's a bit awkward. We're going to have to work something out. Anyway, I decided to make a second car, the reason being that there are some biters I would like to deal with. The pollution is getting very close to some of the biter bases recently, and there are a few that are ending up inside the pollution range over in the desert. They've been advancing a little bit, we need to deal with them. So I've got a second car, and this will be the battle car, seeing as the other car has a bunch of stone in it, and stone has suddenly become a lot more valuable, so we want to keep an eye on that. I was going to do some flooring today of the new rail lines with stone, but considering that we don't have a continuous supply anymore, that seems like a bad idea. We could probably still use all our concrete, because the only purpose of concrete is for making things look nice and letting you run faster. But stone, we're going to keep in reserve for now. So yes, we'll go back to the rails that we're working on, and we'll see about connecting them up. The reason that I wanted a train is so I can work out the right length of blocks. Though we still have the same issue with before of, if I make the blocks the exact length of the train, then trains will have to be almost stopped before they manage to leave the previous block, which doesn't work well. It slows down the system, but it's probably fine. We'll have to see. We may have to make some changes later on. Anyway, I start putting in the rail, but I switched to just putting in a template so I can make sure it lines up right, because I was slightly worried for a second that it would end up going over the top of this iron deposit here. Luckily it doesn't, but after a bit of pondering and thinking about how I want to arrange the station once it's in place, I decide that I'm going to get rid of this bit and move it along a bit. The reason being that I wanted room for an extra block at the other end as well. I'm trying to have like blocks before we have the 45-degree turn. The reason being that those 45-degree turns may one day turn into junctions, because there's sort of a good place to do it, and we've got that sort of thing already with the three-way junction between Colbury, Chipton, and the main base, or I guess Frackham. Except not Frackham, because there's another junction before then. I should start naming the junctions. That'd be quite cool. I guess I could call the one I'm referring to Chipton Junction. Except no, there's an even nearer junction for Chipton, so I guess that would be Chipton Junction. But then what does that make the other one? Is that Colbury Junction? Maybe I should just call that Central Junction. I don't know. I should put signs next to them, naming them. Well, I can't. I guess I can put stations connected to bits of rail that aren't on the map, or are on the map. I don't know. I mean, aren't connected to the other rails. But yes, we've moved along the rails by a bit. And I've noticed something interesting as well. You may notice that there's a lot of consistency with the errors that I'm making as I'm running along, because I'm just running in a straight line, but random extra bits of rail are being made, and I realise that it seems to be something to do with chunk boundaries, which I'd never noticed before. I do feel a bit silly for not noticing it, because it makes a lot of sense, and it was very clear from that particular building I did there that It's sort of lining up with sort of imaginary edges of squares and things. But anyway, we are done for today. I think I'll ask about names for the new town next episode, so don't worry about it this time. We'll just park things up, and I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.